Hello everyone, it's Shannon here from Craft Ghetto. In today's video, I'm going to share with you how to create this really fun We Blend shaker card using this brand new combo set from Waffle Flour. The first thing we're going to do is stamp out our images. So this is the We Blend combo set. The combo set comes with the We Blend stamps and the We Blend matching dies in the back, and they both come in that beautiful rainbow cloud storage bag that you saw me holding earlier. The first thing I'm going to do is arrange several of these images in my MISTI and stamp them in Memento Tuxedo Black on some 110-pound white cardstock. I do stamp the kale 3 times. Here you see me stamping a little smiley face on that bottom kale. There's also a little smiley face that comes with that We Blend stamp set that you can add. And I will eventually add it to the carrot as well. I just forgot to do it. So after I've stamped these images out, I'm going to Copic color them in. And I do have the colors I'm using on screen so you can follow along as I do my coloring. I have to say I really enjoyed coloring these images in this set. This is a really fun set to color. There's so many wide open areas in these images, so you can really have some beautiful gradations. It was just a lot of fun to color these images. So I'm going to let you guys follow along as I color, and I'm going to play a little music, and I'll meet you back when I'm just about done. So I'm just about done here finishing up the ice cubes, adding a little blue to them just to give them a little glare, and that'll finish my Copic coloring. I went ahead and die cut all the images out with the We Blend matching dies off camera. Now I'm taking my tape runner and running some strips of adhesive on some scrap white cardstock, then sticking it to my skin to remove some of the stickiness of the adhesive, and then I'm going to take all my ice cubes and stick them down on the adhesive. This is just to hold the ice cubes in place while I apply some of this Nuvo crystal drops. This is Morning Dew, so it's a beautiful clear, and I'll really add some nice sparkle and shine to these ice cubes. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. So while the ice cubes are drying, I'm going to stamp my background. So I have an A2 panel of 110-pound white cardstock, and I grabbed the skinniest stripe from the Plaid Play stamp set, and I'm now lining it up using the grid on my work surface to help me make sure that line is nice and straight. And then I'm going to ink it up in Waffle Flour's new Fish and Pond. This is a beautiful kind of aqua or pool dye ink, and I'm going to stamp it diagonally, and I'm going to repeat this till I have this whole entire A2 panel covered with these diagonal stripes. Once I finish stamping my stripes this direction, I will rotate my paper around and then stamp my stripes again, but this time in the opposite direction. And I'm going to stamp this whole entire panel again, creating a grid-like look. And this will add a nice background for our We Blend images. And this new Fish and Pond color really brings in the kind of aqua color we used on the blender. So speaking of blenders, the next thing we're going to do is cut out this interior section of the pitcher of the blender. I'm going to use an X-Acto knife to do this, and I'm just running the blade along that interior line, that interior stamped black line of the pitcher of the blender here. And I actually feel like I don't feel very confident with my X-Acto cutting skills, but I found this very easy to cut out this interior section. And this is actually where we're going to put our ice cubes, and they're going to shake around inside there. And now I'm using an adhesive remover because I got something sticky on there, so I just kind of move it over like an eraser and it picks up any glue that I might have had on my fingers and transferred to my paper. So I went ahead and arranged all my images the way I want them to create my little scene, and now I'm using some blue painter's tape. This is a low tack tape, and I'm placing it over my die cuts. This will hold all my die cuts in place exactly how I've arranged them, and I'm also being careful to keep that area that we cut out of the blender, the interior of the pitcher, open. So I'm making sure there's no tape on that because I need to have that area open so I can trace. So I'm now going to trace that opening onto my stamped background, and now I know where I need to cut. So I'm going to grab my X-Acto knife here and cut it out just like I did when I cut out the interior earlier. And again, it's also really easy because basically it's pretty much straight lines except for that one curve at the top, so it's pretty easy to cut out. And once I finish cutting out that opening, I will take an eraser just to erase my pencil lines. Now I have a piece of white craft foam. It's an A2 panel size, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I just placed it behind my background panel and then traced the opening again onto the craft foam. And what I'm doing here is just double checking, making sure that everything lines up, and since it does, I will go ahead and cut out that interior section of the craft foam with a pair of scissors. And this craft foam, of course, will provide the dimensions so the ice cubes can actually shake around inside. So now I've moved my background panel to my MISTI, and I've grabbed a sentiment from the We Blend stamp set, and I also have my images there just to make sure that the sentiment is not going to be covered by the images, and I'll just stamp the sentiment in Versa Fine Onyx Black ink. So believe it or not, we are just about ready to actually assemble our shaker card. The first thing I'm going to do is take my background panel and again use it to trace that interior section, but this time I'm tracing it onto my card base, which is made from 110-pound white cardstock. And I'm just using that to know where I need to position that interior section of the picture. So that section that we colored, we're not throwing it away, we're keeping it. And I'm just adhering it inside the pencil lines that I traced, and then I'll just erase the pencil lines. Next, I'll grab my craft foam and a small amount of acetate, just enough to cover that opening, and then I'll just use some Tombow Mono multi-liquid adhesive here and glue it directly onto the craft foam. And then I'll add some more of this adhesive all over the craft foam to then glue the stamped background, the striped one that we created earlier, directly onto the craft foam as well. And that will kind of sandwich the acetate down to the craft foam and hold that in place. And now we are ready for our images. So I'm going to flip over this whole ensemble of taped together die cuts and add the liquid glue to the backside. I want to make sure that I get some glue on every one of those die cuts to make sure it holds them in place. And I'll now just line the blender up with the opening and then hold it for a second and then carefully peel away the blue tape. I really love using this trick of the painter's tape for assembling my scenes, especially when I have lots of little die cuts. That way I don't have to take a picture of my scene or try to remember where everything is. Everything is exactly where I arranged it. I'll now grab my ice cubes, which are now dry, and I'll place them in that interior section of my blender. Just arrange them in there so they're out of the way of the craft foam. And then I'll grab my craft foam layer and add some more liquid glue to the back side, and then just flip this over and line it up with that interior section and glue it right down. And that will complete my shaker. And I'll hold the card up to the camera so you can get a good look at this card. I really enjoyed coloring these images from the We Blend stamp set. In fact, I can't wait to make another card with them actually. And I think it's so fun that just by cutting that interior section of the blender, we were able to create a shaker card and use the ice cubes from the set as the shaker components. Really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.